Thank you, everybody, for being here. The Homeland Security and Public Safety and Veterans Affairs Committee will now come to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Here.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Here.
Canales, Cortez,
Here.
Isaac,
Here.
Durazio, Lauderbeck, McLaughlin, Holt, Pearson, Hickland.
A quorum is present. Members, any questions or remarks I'd like to make before we get started? We're going to take up some pending business before we hear some bills. Nobody? Okay, hearing none, we'll get started. The chair lays out as pending business House Bill 1065 by Representative Durazio. Members, this is a bill we heard previously relating to the classification of employees of a company license holder under the Private Security Act. The chair offers a committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The substitute is adopted. The chair moves that House Bill 1065 as substituted be reported favorably to the full House with the recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez,
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
Durazio,
Aye.
Lauderbeck,
Yes.
McLaughlin, Holt, Pearson, Hickland.
There being 9 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails.
I think it's 8-0.
Is it 8-0?
McLaughlin, Canales.
Okay, there being eight ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. Show Representative Hickland present. The chair lays out as pending business House Bill 2882 by Representative Isaac. Remember, this is the bill we heard previously relating to the definition of a short barrel firearm for purposes of certain criminal offenses. The chair moves that House Bill 2882 without amendments be reported favorably to the full House with a recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Did you say 2882?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Nay.
Canales, Cortez,
No.
Isaac,
Aye.
Durazio,
Aye.
Lauderbeck,
Yes.
McLaughlin, Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Hickland.
Aye.
8-1.
7-2.
There being 7 ayes and 2 nays, the motion prevails. Chair lays out as pending business House Bill 3626 by Representative Holt. Members, this is the bill we heard previously relating to coroners, including certain state benefits and awards and membership on the First Responder Advisory Council. The chair offers a committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee sub? The chair hears none. The substitute is adopted. The chair moves that House Bill 3626 as substituted be reported favorably to the full House with the recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez,
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
Durazio,
Aye.
Lauderbeck, McLaughlin, Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Hickland.
Aye.
And I know. There being 9 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out as pending business House Bill 5528 by Representative Lauderback. Members, this is the bill we heard previously relating to the establishment of the Texas Law Enforcement Crisis Prevention Task Force. The chair moves that House Bill 5528 without amendment be reported favorably to the full House with a recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez,
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
Durazio,
Aye.
Lauderback,
Yes, sir.
McLaughlin, Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Hickland.
Aye.
I know. There being 9 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. Show Representative McLaughlin present. The chair lays out Senate Bill 2543, the Senate companion to House Bill 4053. Members, this is my bill we heard previously relating to the amount of certain revenue that may be used for and the location of state veterans cemeteries. The chair moves that Senate Bill 2543 without amendments be reported favorably to the full House with a recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez,
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
DeRazio,
Aye.
Lauterbach,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Aye.
Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Heckland.
Aye.
There being 10 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair recalls HCR 46 from the Subcommittee on Defense and Veterans Affairs and recognizes Chair Cortez to explain the measure.
Yes, sir. Yes, Chairman. HCR 46 would designate January 12th as Nathan Gage Ingram Day, and the Subcommittee on Defense and Veterans Affairs voted it out 5-0, and we have sent it up to the main committee for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The chair moves that HCR 46 without amendment be reported favorably to the full House with a recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez,
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
DeRazio,
Aye.
Lauterbach,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Aye.
Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Heckland.
Aye.
There being 10 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. We don't want that, that can't go to local, can it? The chair lays out as pending business Senate Bill 36 by Senator Parker. Members, this is the bill we heard previously relating to the Homeland Security activities of certain entities, including the establishment and operations of the Homeland Security Division in the Department of Public Safety. The chair offers a committee substitute. Is there an objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the substitute is adopted. The chair moves that House Bill 36 as substituted be reported favorably to the full House with a recommendation that it do pass and be printed. Are y'all familiar with this bill?
What's your number? What's your bill number?
36.
Oh, I thought Senate bill, it's House bill 36.
Senate Bill 36.
Yes. What's, is there a house? There's not a house in Maine. Okay.
No. And there's some language we're working out, but I've been on the phone with Chief Kidd and Turtle Martin and Governor and Senator Parker and everything that we're going to do some floor amendment work, but everybody's on the same page or getting on the same page. So the clerk will call a roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez,
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
DeRazio, Lauterbach,
Aye.
McLaughlin,
Aye.
Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Heckland.
Aye.
There being 10 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out Senate Bill 2007, the companion bill to House Bill 3531 by Representative Morgan. Members, this is the bill we heard previously and voted out unanimously relating to the voluntary disclosure by an applicant for registration of a motor vehicle of the applicant's military status. The chair moves that Senate Bill 2007 without amendment be reported favorably to the full House with a recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez,
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
DeRazio, Lauterbach,
Aye.
McLaughlin,
Aye.
Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Heckland.
Aye.
There being 10 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out as Senate Bill 2938, the companion to House Bill 3644 by Representative Romero. Members, this is a bill we heard previously and voted out unanimously relating to the verification of the veteran status of inmates and prisoners. The chair moves that Senate Bill 2938 without amendment be reported favorably to the full House with a recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez,
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
DeRazio, Lauterbach,
Aye.
McLaughlin,
Aye.
Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Heckland.
Aye.
There being 10 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. Chair lays, which one's this? Yes, Chair lays out Senate Bill 1321 by Senator Hagenbu, the Senate companion to House Bill 3649 by Representative De Ayala. Members, this is a bill we heard previously relating to the compensation and leave for certain peace officers. The chair moves that SB 1321 without amendment be reported favorably to the full House with a recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez,
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
DeRazio, Lauterbach,
Aye.
McLaughlin,
Aye.
Holt,
Aye.
Pearson, Hickland.
10 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out Senate Bill 2570 by Senator Flores, the Senate companion to House Bill 5139. Members, this is the bill we heard and voted out previously relating to a legal justification for the use of force with a less lethal force weapon by a correctional facility guard or a peace officer. The chair moves that Senate Bill 2570 without amendments be reported favorably to the full House with a recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call a roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez,
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
DeRazio,
Aye.
Lauterbach,
Aye.
McLaughlin,
Aye.
Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Hickland.
Aye.
10 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. These are the ones that were in subcommittee. Okay, these are bills, I believe, that were heard in the subcommittee and voted out yesterday.
It was,
So, Chair recalls Senate Bill 651 from the Committee on Defense and Veterans Affairs and recognizes Chairman Cortez to explain the measure.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, these bills were voted out at Monday's meeting, and thank you for the opportunity to lay out Senate Bill 651 by Senator West, which relates to the requirement that a Veterans County Service Office report to the Commissioner's Court or designated county executive official. Mr. Chairman, the Permanent Standing Subcommittee on Defense and Veterans Affairs gave a recommendation vote of 4-0 and 1 absent to send this bill to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The chair moves that Senate Bill 651 without amendments be reported favorably to the full House with a recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez.
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
DeRazio,
Aye.
Lauterbach, McLaughlin,
Aye.
Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Hickland.
Aye.
There being 10 ayes, 0 nays, the motion prevails. Chair recalls Senate Bill 1227 from the Committee on Defense and Veterans Affairs and recognizes Chairman Cortez to explain the measure.
Thank you, Chairman. Senate Bill 1227 by Senator Flores relates to the fees for the issuance of certain military specialty license plate. Chairman, the Permanent Standing Subcommittee on Defense and Veterans Affairs gave a recommendation vote of 3-1 and 1 absent to send this bill to the full committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The chair moves that Senate Bill 1227 without amendments be reported favorably to the full House with a recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez,
Aye.
Isaac,
Aye.
DeRazio,
Aye.
Lauterbach,
Aye.
McLaughlin,
Aye.
Holt,
Nay.
Pearson,
Nay.
Hickland.
Aye.
7-2.
8-2.
There being 8 ayes and 2 nays, the motion prevails. The chair recalls Senate Bill 1931 from the Committee on Defense and Veterans Affairs and recognizes Chairman Cortez to explain the measure.
Thank you, Chairman. Senate Bill 1931 by Senator Hinojosa designates a portion of U.S. Highway 83 in Hidalgo County as SP4 Rodolfo Valdez Memorial Highway. Mr. Chairman, the Permanent Standing Subcommittee on Defense and Veterans Affairs gave a recommendation vote of 4-0 and 1 absent to send this bill to the full committee. Thank you.
All right, members, this is a road naming bill, so we'll probably send this to local and consent calendar, if that's okay. All right, the clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez.
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
DeRazio, Lauterbach,
Aye.
McLaughlin,
Aye.
Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Hickland.
Aye.
There being 10 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. All right, we're going to proceed to hearing some bills.
Yeah, no.
Oh, you have one?
We'll do that at the meeting.
Members will now proceed to hearing testimonial bills. As a reminder, individuals wishing to testify must register at the kiosk located in the hallways behind the hearing rooms. If you require assistance with the registration or the testimony process, please consult with my committee staff up here, and we'll get you some assistance. We're going to be moving kind of quick because we're running on fumes and getting late at night, so I will have a hard stop on 2 minutes, and I'm going to be a hard stop on it. We don't have a whole lot of witnesses tonight, but we're going to be moving on along here. So I'm going to go in the order of seniority present. Is that okay, or you got anything? You good? Okay. Because Gian's back there. Is it 1597? Okay, the chair lays out House Bill 5097, recognizes Chairman Gian.
Mr. Chairman, I believe Chairman Guillen has a full PowerPoint presentation for us, about 40
Does it?
slides.
Yeah, for all his 10,000
Did you want to
bills.
put it up on the screen, Chairman
Yeah.
Guillen?
Bill very seriously.
There is a committee substitute, is that correct?
Yes.
The chair lays out the committee substitute, and recognizes Chairman Gian to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, this bill is a follow-up bill to last session's HB 4123, which passed both chambers unanimously and was signed by the governor. This brings needed clarity and updates how our state handles sensitive criminal background information, particularly in ensuring alignment with federal law and safeguarding individual privacy. The Crime Records Division of DPS plays a critical role in processing criminal history checks for a wide range of public and private entities across Texas. But to maintain access to national criminal history data from the FBI, we must meet federal standards, including ensuring that personal data is collected, stored, and disseminated under clearly defined rules. This bill updates additional language in statute required by several state agencies and aligns our procedures with those standards. The bill ensures that agencies using criminal history checks, like the Texas Department of Insurance, the Texas State Board of Pharmacy, and the Texas Medical Board, can continue operating effectively while meeting federal access requirements. And just as important, it strengthens protections around how criminal history records are handled, including limits on disclosure and strict penalties for misuse. Members, this bill is another step in the modernization of our background check system. It protects the public, safeguards individual privacy, and keeps Texas in good standing with federal law enforcement partners. Happy to answer any questions, and we do have someone here from the agency to help with technical questions as well.
All right, members, do y'all have questions for the resource witness? Do we need to call him up? Okay, we'll give you opportunity to close, and we'll call the resource witness. Chair calls Catalina Rodriguez Combs. Show your record as Catalina Rodriguez Combs, testifying on behalf of DPS and Neutral, is that correct?
Correct.
All righty, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Catalina Rodriguez Combs. I am a senior director with the Crime Records Division with the Texas Department of Public Safety. I'm here as a resource witness if you have any questions.
Members, any questions? All right, thank you for being here.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to testify on, for, or against House Bill 5097? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Guillen to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there's no further questions, I close, ask for favorable consideration to the consent calendar if possible.
Members, any questions? All right, the chair withdraws the committee substitute, House Bill 5097. If there's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is left pending. Chair lays out House Bill 5513 and recognizes Chairman Guillen to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, we ask a lot of our rural law enforcement officers, and thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to lay this bill out. We ask a lot of our rural law enforcement officers. They work long hours, wear many hats, and often serve in regions where backup is miles or counties away. But what happens when the people we rely on to protect our communities can't find reliable child care for their own children? This bill aims to address that need by creating the Rural Law Enforcement Child Care Grant Program, housed at DPS, to help rural officers cover the cost of child care. It provides support either directly to the officer or through the department. It gives DPS the authority to set up rules regarding who qualifies, how much help they can get, and how to apply. The bill also creates the Rural Law Enforcement Child Care Fund, supported by legislative appropriations, federal dollars, and private donations. To make sure the program reflects the realities on the ground, this bill creates an advisory committee of rural officers child care experts, TCOL, and local leaders to guide the process. DPS will report back to us annually with the facts, the stories, and the lessons learned so that we can continue improving it. The bill is voluntary. No local agency is required to take part, but for those that need it, it's a lifeline that helps keep experienced officers in uniform, their families supported, and provide a solution to incoming officers with families as well. At its heart, the bill is about serving those who serve us. I can help answer any questions if y'all have any.
Mr. Lauterback.
Chairman, again, thanks for bringing this to us, but the DPS is going to be administering the program.
Right.
Thank you.
No.
Members, any other questions? Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Guillen, this is apparently it's going to be an ongoing subsidy from DPS, a couple $1 million. And with childcare being cheaper in rural counties than urban ones, according to HHS, why is it only applying to rural counties?
Well, if we had expanded, it'd be way more than 2 million.
So is
we're
this,
trying-
I'm just curious to see, is this something that you're just trying to use this to attract more people to rural counties, or? This
Absolutely.
is,
Obviously.
it's a pretty big
Obviously,
deal.
rural counties have a hard time finding law enforcement and keeping law enforcement. It's, their pay is not as competitive as the urban areas, of course. And so one of the things that we've seen, the last few years as we've gone across the state and talked to law enforcement across the state is that this is a big need. We've heard it time and time again, and so that was the impetus of the bill.
And does it have to come through DPS? It seems like it's not a DPS function, so I'm just curious why it's coming from DPS. It's kind of
does.
away from DPS's core mission there.
It doesn't. I
Okay.
mean, we could do whatever works. It's fine. It's
Okay.
just, we put together an idea and smart folks like you help make it better. So, yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Lauterback.
So, Chairman, DPS, as you know, probably has handled things like this a number of times. So it isn't abnormal for DPS to do this. It could go to the governor's office. It could be part of the governor's grants or things.
Yeah.
But
We're not married to the language. We just, this is an idea. It's late in the session. It's got a fiscal note. I understand it's going to be tough at this point, but I really appreciate the opportunity to lay it out, start the discussion, and, we could do whatever y'all want with it. But at least we got the opportunity to start the conversation because, as I've said, over the last few years, being in this committee, we heard a lot about this, and so that's why we put it together.
well, this is just another attempt at, in the rural world of trying to get a source of income that they can live off of and remain there and become a veteran peace officer in these counties. So it's about longevity and keeping someone there, getting them trained and keeping them, which is always an attractive position. Thanks, sir.
Absolutely.
Chairman.
Representative Holt.
Hi, thank you for doing this, Representative Guillen. And you're right, it is late in the session here, and it may or may not take wings and fly, but being a rural community myself and my district, and it's so important, and it appears that officers come in, they get trained, and they get a little experience, and then they're off, and they're looking for greener grass, so anything that we can do to help, and should this not make it this round, I really would like to work with you on this. As a mom of a police officer, if they didn't have me taking care of their child, then, it would have been a struggle for them, so
Absolutely.
anyway, so if some reason it doesn't make it this time, I'd like to work with you on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And we can, I'm sure there's a JA spot as well. So,
All right. Representative McLaughlin.
So have you noticed that coming from Uvalde as being the mayor former, I saw more and more state agencies having to do this to create child care
Well, yeah.
I mean, I don't think you'll be the first that does this. I know Texas Workforce does it, and they're commissioning that for people. Some of the health deals do because they can't get quality health care in rural Texas.
Right, absolutely.
All right, members, any other questions? I don't think we have any witnesses. Is there anyone wishing to speak on, for, or against House Bill 5513? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Gann to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, appreciate the opportunity to lay this out and ask for favorable consideration.
All righty, thank you, sir. If there's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is left pending. Hey, where's my bill? Yeah, I don't have the script. Was in here twice then. See, it's right there. And right there.
Yes, that's the bill text.
Okay. Members, we're going to take up, we're going to reconsider the vote on SB 1227 right quick. We have a member who wants to change their vote. The chair moves to reconsider the vote by which Senate Bill 1227 was reported from the committee. SB 1227 is a bill we just voted out relating to the fees for the issuance of certain military specialty license plates. Is there objection to reconsideration of the vote? Hearing none, the motion prevails. The chair moves that Senate Bill 1227 without amendment be reported favorably to the full House with the recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Hefner,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Canales, Cortez.
Yes.
Isaac,
Aye.
DeRazio,
Aye.
Lauterbach,
Aye.
McLaughlin,
Aye.
Holt,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Hickland.
Aye.
There being 10 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. Okay, the chair lays out House Bill 1108 and recognizes Chairman Van Dever to explain his bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate the opportunity to lay this bill out, and I want to begin by saying that this bill is not anti-law enforcement. I am certainly not anti-law enforcement. I don't think I've ever, in my decade in the House, have ever taken a vote that could be considered to be anti-law enforcement. But what this bill does is really just starts a conversation about what I believe could be an issue that we have. You know, no one's perfect, no agency is perfect, no organization is perfect, and we all want to improve any way we can. And so what this bill does is it addresses some ongoing concerns that motorcyclists are really being sometimes unjustly targeted and stopped by law enforcement, really just based on their attire and you know, their motorcycle-related gear that they wear. You know, through some friendships I have and some other friendships I've made since working on this bill, I've come to realize there are a lot of really good people who are motorcycle enthusiasts and who ride motorcycles. And many of them contribute many hours of their time to volunteer in their local communities. They do fundraisers for children, and they have ministries in their communities, and just all around good people. But they do you know, wear the gear, and so sometimes when we see them in a restaurant or see them on the streets, we automatically think of maybe a preconceived idea we have of what a motorcyclist really is. This bill really just seeks to clearly define acts of that constitute motorcycle profiling, and it prohibits motorcycle profiling by law enforcement officers. It implements a process for an individual to file complaints if they suspect that profiling is existing. So, you know, that's really what this bill does. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation, and I think it can be a very healthy conversation, and I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have and would like to reserve the right to close.
Members, any questions? Representative Lauterbach.
Hey, Chairman. Thanks for coming today. When you say motorcycle profiling, I mean, law enforcement already, each year has to turn in a profiling report. And what brought this bill to you? What's going on here?
Well, this bill was brought to me by some motorcycle enthusiasts who are really good guys. And actually, one of the individuals I've met working on this is a firefighter. Many of them are first responders. But statistics show that people riding motorcycles and wearing the gear, wearing the jackets and the gear, are actually pulled over at a higher rate than the general public. And so, that's why this bill was brought to me. You're right. Law enforcement is required to, profiling is prohibited. Profiling is against the law. But I really think that what we're looking at here, to me, may be as much educational as anything else, just helping people understand that just because a person is riding a motorcycle and wearing a black jacket does not necessarily mean that they are breaking the law, and that they need to be pulled over, need to rise to the same level of reason for being pulled over as any other citizen. So.
And you've seen data that would suggest that they're being profiled, so to speak?
I have seen data that suggests that people on motorcycles are pulled over at a higher rate than other individuals. Now, maybe there are other reasons for that. Maybe motorcycles, because of the nature of a motorcycle, maybe they go faster maybe in traffic than a car. Maybe they tend to. I don't know. I don't know the reasons for it, but I have seen data that would suggest they are pulled over at a higher rate.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Representative Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. Van Deaver. I have constituents that have come to me with this issue and said that are they entered into some kind of database and they can't get off of it, and actually they've come in their gear and they have patches all over them and
Right.
they look like a gang to me.
Right.
So
Right.
I can see where they might be profiled. But anyway, I think their concern was they get entered into a database
Right.
of some sort, and then in order to get off, it's almost impossible, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my understanding. And again, I think we may have some witnesses that can speak more directly to that, but that's my understanding. And you're right. I mean, listen, I grew up in rural Northeast Texas, and when we saw motorcyclists, we thought they were gangs, and the movies, do a good job of helping us, have that concept of them. But you're right. I mean, some of our very good friends and very strong people in our communities ride motorcycles and wear the jackets with the patches. Yeah.
My brother-in-law is one of them, so
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Members, any other questions? All right, we have a few witnesses. We'll have you
Thank
come
you.
back close. Chair calls Paul Landers. Paul Landers. Paul is registered for the bill, but not testifying. Chair calls Richard Grider. Richard Grider. Richard is always registered for the bill, also registered for the bill, but not testifying. Chair calls, is it Stephen Way? So you registered as, did I say that right?
Stephen Wee.
Wee. Stephen Wee, testifying on behalf of Motorcycle Riders Foundation and yourself and for the bill. Is that correct?
Yes.
All righty, proceed.
Chairman, committee members, my name is Stephen Wee, Assistant State Representative with the Motorcycle Riders Foundation, and I'm in favor of House Bill 1108. House Bill 1108 promotes awareness regarding motorcycle profiling, strictly prohibits officers from engaging in motorcycle profiling, and requires the agency employing a peace officer to take appropriate corrective action if found to be in violation of the agency's policy. House Bill 1108 will garner wide support due to its Constitution-based protections and common sense guidelines regarding civil rights. The Motorcycle Riders Foundation represents almost 500,000 of freedom-loving motorcycle riders in the state of Texas. And I'm one of them, would appreciate your vote in favor of House Bill 1108. That concludes my testimony. I'm available for questions.
All right, members, any questions? Representative Isaac?
So do you wear a vest with patches?
Yes.
And you should
Yes.
have worn that instead of a tie. It would have been more compelling.
Pardon?
You should have worn that instead of a suit
Well,
and tie, so we can understand.
The answer is yes. I wear a black vest. I ride a black motorcycle with a black helmet, you know. And I'm also head of security for a building 1 block south of the Capitol. So I want to make sure that we're protected. Almost 500,000 riders are protected by this. We understand that there's guidelines that agencies follow. We want more awareness, education, and training. That's all we're asking for. And if you're in an agency, you never stop doing that anyway, right? You never stop educating, training, and bringing awareness to different situations that might occur out on the street. So we're in favor of that. We also have the National Motorcycle Profiling Survey that was asked earlier about survey results. Over 15,000 participants participated in this, and this is over the last 5 years, and that includes 54% of religious motorcycle ministries and clubs wears what I wear to church. I wear it to church. 54% have been profiled or witness profiling. Veterans motorcycle clubs, 55%. That's huge in my world. Clean and sober motorcycle clubs, law enforcement clubs are even pulled over indiscriminately, arbitrarily. So riding clubs, 49%, 49% riding associations, 47% no club association or affiliation. We're talking about everyday people that are witnessing profiling. Everyday people that have jobs, they're law-abiding citizens, and they're definitely not anti-law enforcement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Representative Louderback?
Hey, Mr. Wee,
Hi,
good to see you.
good to see you.
What, this data that you received, now, the profiling report that we do, it's regarded as a motor vehicle stop, so is the data that you've received about this, where does that come from?
The National Profiling Project is a nationwide,
Now, who's in charge of that? Somebody in Texas recording this?
no one in Texas, but this includes data from all over the United States.
So do we have anything at all from Texas?
Absolutely. I can get that to you.
Okay, that would be good.
And it shows hot spots throughout the United States. Because of the empirical evidence that's shown, it shows where the hot spots are as far as profiling is concerned. And that's where what I just read off, that's where that came from. People that are in everyday riding associations, clubs, they're witnessing or being profiled.
Yeah.
And that's through the National Profiling Project.
Appreciate it. Good to see you. Thank you.
Give me just one moment.
Are there any other questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony, sir. The next individual, that was the That was the final witness. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against House Bill 1108? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Van Dever to close on his bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I just appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. Again, absolutely not anti-law enforcement. We love our law enforcement. We want to do everything we can to support them. We just want to have this conversation and do our due diligence to educate the agencies so that these good citizens, can enjoy their motorcycles and enjoy the freedoms that we all enjoy. So I'm happy to, if there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
So Chairman, as we look and surface up, I mean, 4 out of my 6 counties, I've got motorcycle clubs. And they wear all the typical gear, which is protective gear.
Sure.
Bugs at 100 miles an hour hurt you.
Absolutely.
So, or 50 miles an hour hurt you. So, you're
Yeah.
well, some of these, I don't have one, but some of these motorcycles are fast.
Yes.
But when we try to define a problem like profiling, every traffic stop that we make in law enforcement is recorded. A report is done to Commissioner's Court. A report is done to city councils. Everyone, DPS is tracking every stop that's made. So I'm just not seeing, in my 4 counties, I've got 4 large clubs. I've never had them come to me and say, hey, I got popped over here for whatever, traffic violations with motorcycles. Now, true, none of them are wearing banditos on the back of their jackets and things.
Right.
And they don't look like a motorcycle gang for the most part. But some of them are dressed the same way. They're dressed the same part. So I'm just not seeing I'm not seeing where we have a profiling problem. I mean, you got to change my mind about that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I don't know that I want to try to change your mind necessarily. But I do want us to look at this and have this conversation. And I will say, as the witness mentioned, I believe there are hot spots, and I believe absolutely you're probably not seeing an issue in your community, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in other areas in the state. And I do believe that there are areas that are hot spots, and maybe the different law enforcement agencies that maybe are not quite as well trained or don't receive the same training. There may be, I don't know, but I do believe it exists. But I also agree, I don't think it's really a problem in my area. I have a rural area, and we have some motorcycle clubs in the area. But again, I think in those areas, the motorcyclists and law enforcement probably have a better relationship with each other. They probably, in many cases, know each other and work together on a lot of projects. That may not necessarily be the situation in some of the urban and suburban areas. I don't know.
So one question, have you engaged with any of the law enforcement associations here in the state? Have you talked to TMPA, CLEAT?
We have talked.
you-
When we filed the bill, we've talked, and again, I have had a lot of conversations with CLEAT and with other.
About this?
Not about this. Well, I have since I filed the bill. I've talked to some of their representatives about this bill and just told them what we were trying to do. But I have what I consider to be a very good relationship with CLEAT and with the other law enforcement organizations. So. Yeah, and again, I love having those conversations, and that's what this is about, is having those conversations and getting their input and just, let's find a path forward, find a solution that we can all live with.
Well, it'd be a part of that, so thanks, sir, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Chairman Van Dever? Thank you very much for your thank you very much for your testimony, for your layout. If there's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Seeing no objections, the bill will be left pending.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. What are we doing next? I think Are you ready? All right. The chair lays out Senate Bill 857 and recognizes Representative Lauterbach to explain his bill.
Thank you, Chair Lopez. Members of the committee, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, unlicensed drivers are involved in nearly 1 in 5 fatal car crashes. As the number of new folks on Texas roadways continue to rise, so too does the risk posed by unlicensed drivers. Drivers without an active license, regardless of the region, are on the road without the necessary insurance or state-level documentation of their covenant to follow Texas laws. Under current Texas law enforcement may ticket the individual, but lacks the authority to tow a vehicle under those circumstances, increasing the risk of other Texans on the road. Senate Bill 857 by Senator Schwartner would grant law enforcement officers discretion to tow vehicles if the driver is unlicensed, has a suspended, canceled, or revoked license, or fails to have insurance. This bill addresses a critical gap in public safety by providing law enforcement with an additional tool to better ensure compliance with licensing and insurance laws. This bill is widely supported by law enforcement and did not receive any opposition in Senate committee. Happy to answer any questions or reserve the right to close.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for the chair? Seeing none, we'll go to, well, there are no witnesses. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against Senate Bill 857? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Lauterbach to close on his bill.
Thank you, Chairman. There is this would certainly help in some clarifying language that which would really put law enforcement in a better position to take care of this types of situation. With that, I close.
Thank you, sir. If there's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the bill will be left pending. All right. The next bill is the chair lays out Senate Bill 964 by Senator Hughes and recognizes Representative Isaac to explain her bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Texas law requires that applicants for a Texas driver's license or personal identification certificate provide the Department of Public Safety with proof of U.S. citizenship or evidence of lawful presence if the applicant is not a U.S. citizen. However, Texas law does not currently require license of personal identification certificates issued to non-citizens to be distinguishable from those issued to U.S. citizens. Under Texas law, either a license or a personal identification certificate may be used to satisfy the state's photo identification requirement when voting in an election. As a result, non-citizens could become registered to vote and produce a Texas-issued license or identification certificate when voting, neither which make it immediately clear to election officials that the holder of the ID is a non-citizen and ineligible to vote. Senate Bill 964 resolves this issue by requiring that license and personal identification certificates issued to non-citizens by DPS display the phrase non-eligible to vote and be oriented vertically. Thank you for consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'd like to reserve the right to close.
Members, any questions? All right, we have a couple of witnesses. We reserve the right to close. Chair calls Emily French. Emily French is registered against the bill, but not testifying. Chair calls Daniel Woodard. Show you registered as Daniel Woodard, testifying on behalf of Texas Civil Rights Project and against the bill. Is that correct?
That's right.
Proceed.
Good evening, Chair, members of the committee. Thanks for the opportunity tonight. My name is Daniel Woodward, and I'm a policy attorney with the Texas Civil Rights Project, testifying in opposition. Our first concern is that this bill would create havoc for people attempting to vote after becoming naturalized citizens. Most driver's licenses only expire every 6 years, which means that a naturalized U.S. citizen could be registered and eligible to vote, but not have updated their driver's license, so when they present it, they could be rejected by a person at the polling place checking the driver's license. Second, The way that this bill contemplates displaying the word non-citizen could put people at risk of discrimination or even harm at a time when we're hearing increasing vitriol against immigrants. People show their driver's license in all sorts of public places, concerts, when they buy alcohol, opening bank accounts and renting cars, just to name a few. And landlords often require IDs before signing a lease. If a landlord sees that a person is not a citizen, they could decide not to rent because they don't like immigrants, or because they believe that the status makes them less reliable. And then finally, the benefits to this bill just seem minimal. DPS already has a rigorous process to ensure that undocumented people are not receiving driver's licenses. The Secretary of State has a rigorous procedures to ensure non-citizens cannot vote or register to vote. And non-citizen voting is vanishingly rare. And also, legal permanent residents are eligible for unemployment and other state-administered benefits as long as they meet the requirements. So for these reasons, we don't think that this is worth doing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions? Representative Lauterbach.
Thanks, sir, for coming to testify. In the event, in the very first circumstance and example that you illustrated to us, wouldn't that be overcome by simple checking of the voter rolls, which take place automatically and by law?
Are you referring to the checking of the voter rolls that happened
Yeah.
before, or when you're at the polling place?
Mhm.
At the polling place?
Yes.
It could, but what we're concerned about is a judge who might not have the full understanding of the procedure and think that when they're presented with a card that says not eligible to vote, that would really alarm them and say this person should not be allowed to vote, and that they might turn the person away. So we're concerned that people could make mistakes and that this kind of presents a clear red flag for an election worker that could cause them to turn people away. That's the concern.
Isn't questionable identity something to turn people away about until they can verify their vote?
I think that there are provisions for checking on that and double checking on that.
Yeah, they sure could. And that what we ought to have is for good voter integrity?
I mean, in some cases, yes, but there are provisions for what you do. I just think that waving this red flag, saying not eligible to vote, is really like putting up a huge sign for an election worker to say, oh my God, this person's not eligible to vote. We need to absolutely turn them away.
Well, they'd have to be obviously trained about it.
I think there would need to be a lot more training, and it would need to be very vigorous and rigorous to ensure that they understand this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for testifying. I want to stay on that topic for a second. There's nothing in the bill that is prohibiting them from renewing their ID.
No, that's right. But I think the concern is that a lot of people, frankly, we all know that the driver's license offices are really backed up, and right now it's just a pain to register and renew your driver's license. And so a lot of people will be dissuaded from voting just because they have to go through that annoying process that they wouldn't otherwise have to go through.
I've never met an immigrant who can legally vote, not go through any hoop that they needed to get their first vote in. But I also want to say, as a citizen, the law says you have 30 days to renew your license if you change addresses. So citizens have to update their licenses whenever they have a status change, so why wouldn't they?
I think a lot of citizens don't actually do that, frankly, to be honest.
But that's the law. So
Right.
we're talking about, we're
But
making a law here.
I think that they don't get turned away from voting in many cases when that doesn't happen.
But we're talking about applying the law. If a citizen has to update their status by law in 30 days, why wouldn't we require the same for someone else?
I mean, you could require that when people become citizens, but
Would
that's
that
not
make
the
this
law right
better
now.
for you?
I don't think that putting any marker on an identification that says non-citizen is good policy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Members, Representative McLaughlin.
Again, off of what Representative Pearson said, I mean, you can renew your license online. You don't have to go to the driver's license office backed up. You can go online. They can take the paperwork. They can submit it the other way. I mean, to me, I think it's as Representative Lauterbach said too, voter integrity is something we're lacking in this state. And to have that license there, I don't see what's the problem. I think if I was an immigrant and I got approved, first thing I'd want to do is go get that license to show that I succeeded and did it.
I mean, I think a lot of immigrants are very eager to go vote, and I appreciate both of you bringing that up. I just think that we shouldn't be putting up more barriers for people to vote, but I appreciate the point.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions? All righty, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Chair calls Rebecca Hibbs. We have you as a resource, Rebecca. Show your registers, Rebecca Hibbs, testifying on behalf of DPS and Neutral. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's
All right.
correct.
Go ahead.
So again, my name is Rebecca Hibbs with the Department of Public Safety Driver License Division, and I'm just here as a resource if y'all have any questions.
Members, Representative Holt.
Thank you for being here. So if a new citizen, if this goes through and an immigrant has what is it?
Not eligible to vote.
Not eligible to vote, and it's oriented differently, then would they have to come into the DPS to change that status?
Yes.
They wouldn't be able to do that part online?
Correct. They wouldn't
Okay.
be able to renew online, but they would be able to come into the driver license office, present their certificate of naturalization. We still have to verify that through SAVE, the federal application that verifies their status. Once they're verified and we update that, they're changed to citizen yes. That would change the card. And then, of course, after that, they would never have to bring in that documentation again.
Okay, and so that's the process that happens now?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
It just, they have a license or whatever, but it doesn't have that wording on it, and it's not oriented that certain way. Then after that, then they would be able to do online, just like the rest of us do.
That would be
online
correct.
On that, so, okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. Have a good evening.
Thank you for being here. Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on, for, or against Senate Bill 964? If not, the Chair recognizes Representative Isaac to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. I ask for favorable consideration, and if there are no further questions, I close.
Members, any questions? All right. If there's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is left pending. You ready?
Yeah.
The Chair lays out Senate Bill 2143 by Senator Perry and recognizes Vice Chair Lopez to explain the bill.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to lay out Senate Bill 2143 for you this evening. This deals with fire marshals. Fire marshals are vital to the safety and resilience of our communities, no doubt. They prevent loss of life property through fire code enforcement, inspections, and education. They also investigate arson, respond to emergencies, and often serve as first responders in high-risk situations. Unfortunately, in Dallas County, a group of fire marshals were commissioned as peace officers and operated in a quasi-police force without proper oversight, chain of command, or clarity of jurisdiction. This included crossing county lines, in some cases enforcing unrelated criminal laws and acting outside the expected scope of duty, creating confusion, liability, and public distrust. Senate Bill 2143 seeks to prevent this from happening again by establishing clear limits on what authority may be exercised under a fire marshal's commission. Under this structure, a county may still commission fire marshals, fire investigators, and inspectors as peace officers. Those officers may still support fire investigations, enforce building and fire codes, and respond to property crimes as defined in Chapter 28 of the Penal Code, including arson and criminal mischief. They are explicitly barred from enforcing unrelated criminal laws or engaging in general policing, such as unrelated traffic enforcement. The committee substitute improves the bill by narrowing the statutory reference of Chapter 28 and removing Article 14.03. This was done to ensure peace officers still retain authority to act on felonies, breach of the peace, and emergencies under general state law. It avoids overreach while maintaining the ability to respond to real threats. This does not take away the peace officer status, the ability to protect their ability to protect the public, or the duty to act in emergencies. It reins in some of the misuse of commissioning authority that that the role is respected for and clearly defined. It protects both the public and the profession from further misuse or liability. This bill was voted out in this form by the Senate committee as well as the Senate itself unanimously in both cases, and was sent over for us to carry. I do know that I've received quite a few calls in my office for additional dialogue, modification of the requirements and of the statute, and we're certainly working to add some modification that will allow the fire marshals to feel comfortable that their position is being respected and protected. With that, Chairman, I thank you for your time, and I yield to any questions and reserve my right to close.
Members, any questions? Yes. I show 3. 4. Okay, we'll reserve your right to close. We'll go to the witnesses. Chair calls Luis Chris Lopez. Have you registered as Luis Chris Lopez, testifying on behalf of the Bexar County Commissioners Court and against the bill? Is that correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
All right, please proceed.
Thank you so much to the committee members, and thank you all so much for taking your time to represent us. I have to say that every morning when I get up, I pray for wisdom and discernment for those who I lead, and I pray for wisdom and discernment for those who lead us. I've been the county fire marshal in Bexar County for 10 years, and I've been in law enforcement for 35. And I've yet to see this type of piece of legislation come through that would begin to erode our authority. And when I say that, just from personal experience, I've been in Bexar County 20 years, 4 times, once as a deputy fire marshal, twice as a chief investigator, and once as fire marshal, have stopped wrong-way drivers on divided highways who were DWI. Was able to make solid traffic stops on those folks. I was able to make sure that they were arrested by San Antonio Police Department with 2 of them, and the others were the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. Had I not had the ability to affect traffic stops, maybe the life of that person or an innocent would have been either seriously injured or killed as a result of the wrong way driving. And I do believe, and it is my belief, that anything that we do to take away any part of the authority that we have erodes, really, and you guys are the Public Safety Commission, and I know I don't have to remind you of that, but to me, it does begin to erode away the authority of law enforcement. I can tell you that, man, I've worked with many of my folks for years as a fire marshal, and by policy told them, you're not traffic officers. And we have so few that we don't even do racial profiling reporting because we're not required to. I will say if you guys pass this and we have this taken away, there will be jurisdictions because they will get the information. The information will be chopped down by their county attorney, by their DA. They're going to take away marked vehicles from fire marshals. They're going to take away lighting. They're going to take away sirens, not because of your intent, but because of the way that they think that their intent. Right? They're going to look at it one way, and the way that they see that, it's going to be their interpretation. And I know that's not what you guys are intending on, but we see it often. We've had it even with our own district attorney's office. We've had disagreements with them about the intent of what commissioners or you guys have passed in the years past that we have been able to, or we've had to deal with as law enforcement. And I do have to say that, guys, it is not something that we take lightly. I do represent also the Texas chapter of the IAAI, which is the International Association of Arson Investigators. It's a large group within our state. There's only about 3,000, a little over 3,000 arson investigators in the state of Texas. If you look at the number of law enforcement officers that we have total, that's a very small number as it's compared to them. So
okay.
I just ask that you please reconsider that portion only. C, everything else, the requirements for licensure, all of the certifications, we do absolutely believe that those things are spot on. We need those things, just not taking away our ability to do our jobs.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. Members, questions? Representative Louderback.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Yes,
Oh, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Marshall, thanks for coming to testify today. I know it's a deal, you've probably been here a long time, but this whole thing boils down in your mind to the prohibit peace officer, fire marshal from enforcing traffic laws and the transportation code.
Yes, sir.
So you feel it's necessary, even though we have statewide jurisdiction for DWI in our state, we have any breach of the peace you're able to stop. But you think you need you need to enforce the transportation code? You don't see how, as a primary job, as a fire marshal, that speeding and traffic and running the red lights and all these things. Now, I can think of an issue where you're investigating an arson and you have someone that you try to stop, that you found your suspect, not got him identified, so you try to stop him. But those are breaches of the peace. So those are things you're talking about. You're talking about. You're kind of contorting a situation for basic transportation code, stopping cars when you want, and you can't tell me the fire marshals don't do this, because I know they do. Mm-hmm. So, across the state, so there's kind of a mixing of traffic control, peace officer stuff versus primary role fire marshal.
Yes.
And so that's what I think that's what this committee is actually going to have to grapple with, if that's your only problem with the bill.
So, yes, sir. One of the large problems that I have, obviously, I explained to you guys that we at our department we do not allow just the going out and working speeders. We don't allow these guys to go out and do any kind of traffic control unless it is part of our arson investigative unit, just exactly as you had explained. If it is part of our investigation, if our arson investigators are trying to identify a suspect, that kind of thing, but you're correct in that we're not looking to make any change, to take away anything from our current authority. We just don't see that. Again, I can speak from my experience with the State Fire Marshal's Office, where I had worked prior, and the last 20 years at Bexar County. And in those cases, we did not and will not work traffic as you're talking about, speeders, people out running stop signs, step programs, anything like that. We would not do that, and we do not do that by policy. But I believe that and it is the opinion of many other county fire marshals across the state of Texas, that if we begin to take any authority away from our fire marshals, then it begins to erode that public safety piece. And if there's anybody out there, onesie twosies, TCOL can take care of those, and as they should. And I know that a lot of this was brought on by a county up north, and I understand. But in my opinion, sir, that should have been handled by the regulating agency and by that county, and not really have this shotgun effect on the rest of us.
Just to be clear, if we were to craft an answer on this, because we have to take care of a non-agency. We've got law enforcement acting like they're an agency in our state, and they have no ORI, they have no authority. They're not an agency, but we have a group that's acting like that. Yes, and this is a terrible state of affairs for the profession of law enforcement in here, and it's got to be addressed.
I agree.
And so, if we can get some of this issue with traffic worked out, then that would satisfy you, because really the only thing you've really talked about is traffic enforcement.
Yes, sir. That's the only thing that's on our mind.
Appreciate your testimony. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Members? All right. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Chair calls Greg Stevens. I show you registered as Greg Stevens, testifying on behalf of the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement and Neutral. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice, members, I appreciate you having me up here again during the last couple of weeks. Really, I'll just want to clarify a couple of things in there, and I appreciate everything that the Bexar County Fire Marshal just said. There isn't anything in this bill that would take away from anything that what he just testified to. He would still be 100% lawful in making the stop of the DWI situation that he just described. And as Representative Lauterbach talked about, I don't view that it erodes anything from their authority. There's different classifications of agencies, because we have so many types of law enforcement agencies. There's municipal law enforcement, there's sheriff's offices, constable offices, fire marshals, there's the game wardens, there's the pharmacy board, they have peace officers, and they all have a certain type of law enforcement that they do. Unfortunately, what we found and what I'm doing in my new tenure at TCOL is finding issues and problems that I think our sunset legislation challenged TCOL to do, and ensuring the integrity and the professionalism of law enforcement across the state of Texas. And this is one of those things, and Mr. Vice Chairman, you pointed out, this does come from Dallas County, where this is where it originated, but statistically looking at the size of some of the county fire marshals' offices compared to their population, I've got one that's got 70 fire marshals, 63, 32, 28. Those are very large agencies. And so the Bexar County Fire Marshal's not wrong. You wish that TCO would have been able to solve that a while ago, but we lacked the statutory ability to do that. And I think this piece of legislation, it creates where we can do that without being in an adversarial role, without getting into a fight. It solves that problem. So that's what I've got, and I'm happy to answer any questions I can for you.
Members, Mr. Lauterbach.
Thank you for testifying, Director. Can your investigators for TCO, can they work traffic?
Absolutely not. In fact, that's a great point, Representative. So, again, when we talk about, and again, I so appreciate what the Fire Marshal just brought up, it doesn't erode any authority. I have myself and 25 sworn peace officers in TCO, and in Chapter 1701 of the Occupations Code, it specifically says that the Commission, Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, may appoint peace officers for the limited purpose of administering this chapter. So that statute alone says that we can't go out and run radar, we can't go do traffic enforcement. I don't go patrol. I don't tell my enforcement officers, they're sworn peace officers, but they don't go patrol your neighborhood for car burglars. They have no authority to do that. But they are peace officers, just like every fire marshal that is here in the building, just like every state trooper. And under Article 1403 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, there's 5, 6, 7 categories where any peace officer, an attorney general's office peace officer may arrest, and here's the things they can arrest for: any offense in their review that occurs in their presence or in their review. If they come across a family violence situation, they're in the parking lot of HEB and see that a breach of the peace, they can make an arrest right there, whether they're in their county or not, across the state. Doesn't erode any of that authority. So to your point, Representative Lauterbach, myself included, and the 25 peace officers that work for me, they don't do anything like that. They're limited, right? They're limited by their appointment authority under Chapter 1701 of the Occupations Code, but they know that they travel the state in the job they do. And so if they happen to find themselves in Tom Green County and they have a wrong-way driver coming against them, we have state vehicles that have lights, sirens, they're well-armed. They will stop that car, and they will do everything they can do to prevent that potentially drunk driver from harming a Texas citizen or a Texas visitor, and they'll make that arrest. They'll call the local authorities to help them out in that situation.
So we have a number of law enforcement that don't have traffic safety, that work the transportation code. What, as a fire marshal, though, they work investigations along with arson and things like that. So could you see a limited amount or a expanded amount of traffic control that they could do? They could be allowed to actually pursue and stop and investigate as they work investigations or anything like that. Do you see any avenue there that the committee could look at as far as is it looking at this bill?
Well, I think that it's written well as is because it specifically says that it excludes enforcement of the transportation code unless related to fire marshal duties, to what they're doing. And an anecdotal situation, one of the county fire marshals in the state called me in with concerns about this and gave me a story, a situation where he is on a task force with several surrounding counties and a couple of the cities in there, and said, hey, listen, I'm worried about this bill because we were working a serial arsonist and we didn't have him identified, but we knew the vehicle and we found the vehicle and we're following the vehicle and we didn't know if he was driving it or the passenger, but they ran a red light and we pulled him over and we identified our serial arsonist. I think this bill allows that. It completely allows that. It specifically says that they can use the transportation code in the furtherance of an arson or a fire-related investigation. And most all of my investigative time was in narcotics. I can tell you that many narcotics investigations were brought to fruition by using the transportation code as the tool to make a stop and identify a drug courier or a drug dealer or whatever, what have you. I think it allows for that. If we need to craft that differently to make sure that that's covered, I think that's fine. But unfortunately, I think it sort of boils down to you get into parts of it where you'd hope that agencies can self-regulate, right? The Texas game wardens, they just do game warden things. They're not out patrolling for car burglars. The AG's office, their peace officers, they just do things particular to their duty. They're self-regulating. We've run into a situation where there's more than one that we found that aren't just doing fire marshal things. And so to avoid having this sort of gray area where the answer that I've got whenever I've tried to go and say, hey, you guys you should be doing fire marshal things. The public believes you're a fire marshal. That's what you should just do, fire marshal things. The answer is, well, it doesn't say I can't. I get back the answer, well, I can do anything I want to. Nothing says I can't. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. It's like making an arrest. Just because I can make an arrest doesn't mean that I should make an arrest. Just because I can use deadly force doesn't mean that I should use deadly force. And so when, here in law enforcement especially, but government at large, if we don't self-regulate, well, then it makes it easier for me to regulate when I have statutory backing, I think.
Thank you for your testimony.
Yes, sir.
Members, any other questions? Thank you for being here, Mr. Stevens.
Yes, sir. Thank you again.
Chair calls Michelle Wigington. Show your registers, Michelle Wigington, testifying on behalf of yourself and for the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All righty, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Wigington, representing myself. I'm here to support SB 2143. I testified in the Senate committee hearing on March 31st regarding Dallas County's use of the Fire Marshal's Office to license unrelated officers for building security and patrolling the unincorporated areas where I live. Every time I encounter these officers, they violate my rights, and I'm not the only one. On April 1st, I went to speak to my commissioners again and was denied access to my public meeting and subsequently assaulted, drug out of the building, and imprisoned for 17 hours. I was blocked for over an hour while several members of the county administration, DA's office, and sheriff's department ignored my pleas for help accessing my public meeting. After an hour of trying, several men grabbed me without warning, telling me I was being arrested for disrupting a meeting only after I yelled for help several times while they were hurting me. While in jail, I found out that the arresting officer left with my booking paperwork for 6 hours. I didn't find out my charges had been changed to obstructing a highway or passageway and resisting arrest, search, or transport until my bail hearing 12 hours in. I have never disrupted a meeting or been in trouble with the law prior. I've never had problems getting through security screening here at the Capitol. The fire marshals, using the officious title of county marshals, arrested 33 people in 2024 alone and have been withholding basic information regarding these arrests for months. They operate with no accountability or transparency, and their primary responsibility seems to be stop and frisk people they don't like on or around public property and at homes and businesses in the unincorporated areas of Dallas County. Is that it? Oh.
Yeah, wrap it up if you can, please.
I've attached their reorganization presentation from March 2024, their 2024 arrest book, and my mugshot for you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? All righty, thank you for being here. Chair calls Glenn Truby. Did I pronounce your last name right there?
Truby, yep.
Awesome. Okay, I
Sir.
show you registered as Glenn Truby, testifying on behalf of the Texas Fire Marshals Association and yourself, and against the bill. Is that correct?
That is
All
correct,
right,
sir.
proceed.
Chairman, committee members, thank you for allowing us to speak today. My name is Glenn Truby. I am representing the Texas Fire Marshals Association. We represent hundreds of fire marshals and fire prevention officials across the state of Texas. The Texas Fire Marshals Association agrees with majority of Senate Bill 2143. However, our association and our members have concerns against the language limiting the ability to enforce the traffic code. I appreciate Commissioner Stevens' explanation on that, but we still do have a little bit of concerns regarding that application. We understand that the bill was introduced in response to actions of a single agency, and we support all the appropriate steps to address those concerns. The members of our association agree that routine enforcement of the traffic code, transportation code, is not a standard function of fire marshal offices. In fact, most of our, as you heard earlier, most of our agencies already have internal policies that prohibit such practice. However, we're deeply concerned that the proposed language as written would remove an important tool that is occasionally and appropriately used during the course of legitimate law enforcement activities. Fire marshals are licensed peace officers as defined by the Texas Code of Criminal Procedures, Chapter 2, Article 2.12. While transportation enforcement is not our primary duty, there are rare but critical situations where authority must remain available. As stated by Commissioner Stevens and Fire Marshal Lopez, reckless driving, impaired motorist, those type of situations, we want to ensure that we as the fire marshals have that ability to be able to protect our citizens, and we feel that they want us to be able to protect them as licensed peace officers. Again, the Texas Fire Marshals agrees with the majority of the bill. We just feel limiting our members the ability to enforce the traffic code in certain situations is not good for our members or the citizens of the state of Texas. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions? All righty, we appreciate you being here.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on, for, or against Senate Bill 2143? If not, the chair recognizes Vice Chair Lopez to close on the bill.
Well, thank you, Chairman, and to my colleagues for your questions, and certainly to the witnesses for explaining their point of view. As I said in my opening remarks, we've received quite a few calls, had some good dialogue, recognizing that we've all heard it many, many times, and this may be the best example that no one hates a bad cop more than a good cop. And this is definitely that scenario. Trying to find, from our perspective, how we create legislation that's fair, identifies the roles, and makes sure that we're protecting people's liabilities, people's points of view is important. My office will continue to work with you. I know several of you have already been in contact with my office, and we're open to that dialogue. As a matter of fact, we encourage you to have that dialogue with us. I got a call today from my good friend Sheriff Salazar telling me, "What are you doing, dude?" I think that was a quote. And I responded to him, well, we're trying to make sure that we fix a problem, and I realized that there was a problem in Dallas. We realized that there's got to be some fixes to it, and I think it was said several times. This does address a handful of things, but some things it maybe creates a problem. We'll continue to work with you and look forward to making sure that we come up with what's right for those good cops that are out there trying to fix the system. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be more than glad to answer any additional questions in close.
Members, any questions? All right, if there's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is left pending. All right, I got the next four.
Okay. All right. Moving on, the chair leaves out Senate Bill 523 by Senator Zaffarini and recognizes Chairman Hefner to explain the bill.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Parole and probation officers in Texas are responsible for supervising offenders and frequently testify in revocation hearings. This work often places them at risk of retaliation or harassment from persons under supervision or criminal offenders they have testified against in court. Under current law, peace officers, judges, prosecutors, U.S. Marshals, and investigators are permitted to use a business address for their driver's license to protect their residential information. Parole and probation officers, however, are excluded from such protection, which leaves them vulnerable. Providing parole and probation officers with the same level of protection already afforded to other law enforcement and judicial officials would enhance their personal safety by preventing public access to their home addresses. And with that, happy to answer any questions. Reserve the right to close.
Are there any questions, for Chairman? No? Seeing none, we'll move on to public testimony. And we don't have any public testimony, so Chairman Hefner, is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against Senate Bill 523? If not, the Chair recognizes Chairman Hefner to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I close.
If there's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the bill will be left pending. All right. The Chair lays out Senate Bill 1101 by Senator Flores and recognizes Chairman Hefner to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Human smuggling is a heinous crime that often leads to death, and it affects every Senate district in some way all across the state. The amendments... Is this the layout for the committee? Okay. The amendments in the bill focus on expanding the definitions and conditions under which smuggling offenses are prosecuted. These charges can be levied in retaliation to the use of vehicles or other means of conveyance to transport individuals with the intent to conceal victims from law enforcement or to flee from law enforcement. The bill provides clear legal definitions and strengthens the ability of law enforcement to prosecute individuals involved in human smuggling across our parks, nature areas, and open spaces. Current law prohibits assisting, guiding, or directing two or more individuals to enter or remain on agricultural land without the owner's consent. This expands the law to include the following: cultural resource site or area, natural area, open space area, and park. The terms have the meaning as currently defined by Section 24.001 of the Parks and Wildlife Code. This is intended to protect these areas and ensure that they are not used for illegal activities related to human smuggling. So with that, reserve the right to close. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Chairman? If not, thank you for your testimony. We will reserve your right to close and proceed on to the testimony of witnesses. The first witness is John Hubert, representing the District Attorney's Office, Clayburgh and Kennedy Counties of Texas, and yourself testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, proceed, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Again, my name is John Hubert, and I'm the District Attorney for Clayburgh and Kennedy Counties, Texas. I am in favor of the bill. Two of the most dangerous smuggling activity behaviors are when to citizens and to the people smuggled are when people evade arrest in a vehicle and when people smuggle people across these vast areas where there's the environment can be so critical. Senate Bill 1101 is designed to plug a gap in the current smuggling statute of remote areas. I believe that it was in 2021 that the legislature criminalized brush guide smuggling activities by allowing the state of Texas to prosecute as a felony brush guides who smuggled people across the vast, very harsh agricultural lands. The result, smugglers who previously only had to fear a misdemeanor trespassing charge were now being held accountable by facing a felony. Brush smuggling declined. Less immigrants were found dead in the brush, abandoned by their guides. Less immigrants were extorted in remote areas where they had no choice of asking law enforcement for help. People who lived in isolated farms now felt more secure, and y'all did that. The legislature did that. Y'all fixed that problem. But one gap of remote physical challenging areas was overlooked. Texas is blessed with abundant and beautiful natural areas and parks. The Lloyd Benson Park, Atzaldua Park, Lower Rio Grande Valley Natural Wildlife, Big Bend, etc., over 1 million acres of parkland. You have a chance to close that loophole today and discourage smugglers from the actions that risk the lives of the immigrants, to hold the people who do that accountable, and to protect the citizens of Texas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions of the witness? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony, sir. That's it. Okay, is there anyone else that wishes to testify on, for, or against Senate Bill 1101? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Hefner to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I close.
All right. If there's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the bill will be left pending. Moving on to the next bill, the chair lays out Senate Bill 2332 by Senator Parker and recognizes Chairman Hefner to explain the bill.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. In the early 2000s, TxDOT performed 90% of DPS's maintenance. In recent years, DPS aircraft has grown from 10 aircraft to 27 aircraft and from 3,000 annual flights to 14,000 annual flights. DPS aircraft has been forced to decentralize maintenance to primarily using over 11 contracted vendors in Texas and Louisiana. Decentralizing an aviation's fleet maintenance is not aligned with industry standards and is highly discouraged from a safety and maintenance trend monitoring standpoint. This bill would allow DPS to begin re-centralizing its maintenance and bringing it back under DPS and under one roof. Senate Bill 2332 also aligns state law with FAA federal regulation. FAR Part 91.403 mandates that the owner or operator of an aircraft is the primary responsible party to ensuring its airworthiness status and ensuring all airworthiness directives are complied with. Texas DPS is the owner and operator of their aircraft and therefore should be held accountable for the maintenance and safety of their aircraft as well as their crew members. DPS spends $2.7 million annually on outsourced labor. DPS has one mechanic that performs 16 aircraft inspections annually. That equates to approximately $250,000 in labor rates. If DPS were to hire 11 more mechanics that produce similar results, this would equate to $3 million in labor costs and would reduce the need for outsourced labor and maintenance. By DPS performing their own maintenance, it would take a large burden from TxDOT and allow them to focus more on their fleet and other state agencies. It is mission critical that DPS has all their aircraft fully operational so that they can carry out their missions in moments' notice. Members, I reserve the right to close and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a resource from TxDOT or resource witness?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
I would like to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll call them up and you
okay.
can have at them.
Okay.
All right, great. All right, are there any other questions of the chairman? If not, we'll proceed with the testimony. Stacy Holland, is that correct? Texas DPS, registered as neutral. Is that, okay, Stacy Holland is the next person.
I didn't know if you called TxDOT to us.
Well, the person that registered for TxDOT is Stacy Holland. If you wanted to testify. I'm sorry, DPS.
Yes, sir, Stacy Holland.
Oh, TxDOT. Okay.
Stacy Holland, Chief Pilot, Texas Department of Public Safety.
And you're neutral?
I am neutral, yes, sir.
So neutral on the bill. Proceed.
Did I say DPS?
Well,
I was asking for TxDOT.
okay. They're going to have to give
I may have said DPS, but I think I said TxDOT.
Okay. Mr. McMuffin?
So, so DPS is looking to hire their own mechanics. Are they readily available out there? It seems like there seems to be a lot. That seems to be a tough field right now.
Well, that's a great question. We already have 5 FAA airframe and power plant mechanics on staff. And quite frankly, all this bill does is kind of codify and provide clarity to us and mirror federal law with state law. So federal law says that the owner-operator is solely responsible for the aircraft and its compliance. So we've already started doing this. TxDOT's doing about 10% of our overall maintenance right now. We're outsourcing, like the chairman said, 10 to 12 outsourced maintenance. We'd like to get away from decentralized. It's bad for the industry. It's bad for your safety record, and re-centralize and actually take responsibility and be accountable for our own aircraft.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. I just didn't know what the field was out there in the pool is to get more mechanics and so forth.
They're out there, sir. Yes, sir. They're out there.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Sure.
Hey, thanks for testifying today. What's the age of your aircraft?
Well, it's a great question, sir. It's a mix. Right now, we have kind of a mix dating back to about 2005. Some of our aircraft have over 10, 12,000 hours on them. We'd like to replace some of the older ones. These are long-term assets, but it is a mixed fleet ranging from about 22, 23 years. We have one that's over 30 to some replacement.
Fixed wing?
Helicopter over 30, yes, sir.
30-year helicopter.
Yes, sir.
I want to know which one that is. All right, thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions of the witness? I have just a real quick question.
Yes,
so
sir.
what is the expected life?
Well, these are
lifetime of
long-term
a
assets, and typically a replacement cycle should be, if you look across the industry, around a 15-year rotation or 15-year replacement cycle. DPS is operating on about a 20-22 year right now. We'd like to eventually get back up to a 15-year rotation.
And are they salvageable? I mean, can they be refurbished and
They are, but they
repurposed
get
to other agencies perhaps that don't have them?
That is a great point. That you get to a point to where when you reach in the helicopter world, your second long-term inspection. So let's say once every 12 years it goes down to the bone. You get to the second 12-year. Now the inspection is going to be worth more than the aircraft is actually worth.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any other questions of the witness? Yes, sir.
And then on all of your aircraft, are they, if they're centrally located one place, but don't they have areas throughout Texas where they store these?
They're not centrally located. There are 13 strategic duty stations across the entire state of Texas. We serve 254 counties, 3,000 police agencies, providing day-to-day, nights, weekends, mission-critical services.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions of this witness? Now, thank you so much for your testimony. We'll go on to the next witness, which is, this is the one from TxDOT, so you'll be glad to know that they're coming up. Dan Harmon, Aviation Division Director, just testifying neutral on the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, proceed.
Good evening. I'm Dan Harmon. I'm the Director of the Aviation Division at TxDOT, and I'm here as a resource on.
Yeah. Representative Isaac?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now we got you
Members.
hooked up.
Thank you. I was just wondering if you could explain the role of TxDOT and state aircraft.
Okay. Under Government Code 22205 is where this predates me, but there used to be, several agencies had aircraft back, I guess, in the 70s and 80s, and they were all consolidated to the Texas Aircraft Pooling Board. And at around the 2000 timeframe, they were kind of collected all into the pooling board from all the different agencies, and that was around the time that they were moved into TxDOT, and when it moved from Highway Department to Texas Department of Transportation. So the agency was responsible for operating the Flight Services Department at ABIA. So we have a 13-acre facility that we do maintenance and have we do the flights for the Flight Services Program, where we operate the state aircraft, and then we do maintenance on DPS, Parks and Wildlife, and maintain the facility out there as a TxDOT facility. So under 2205, we are charged with the responsibility right now, but as Stacy was saying, sorry, but, it's it hasn't really kept up with the actual times, I guess. So DPS's fleet has grown substantially since that Government Code 2205 kind of changed from the pooling board to TxDOT's responsibility, and so that certainly has put a strain on the capabilities. And so we are, there are portions of this bill I think that are really good. I think that it does acknowledge, I would say the agency says is very good, that, it does acknowledge the fact that, I think the only other agency that is specifically called out for aircraft ownership and given it sort of separated from our facility and doing their own maintenance is Texas A&M, and this would recognize DPS in that same manner, that their pilots are not employees of TxDOT. Because if you read the code, it would make it look like their officers are our employees, and that's not the case. And that their aircraft are their aircraft. I mean, they're state of Texas aircraft, but they are registered to DPS. So in that respect, it does codify that. And we certainly, as this kind of centralized maintenance in Austin, we've got a great working relationship with DPS, we think. We do a lot of their scheduled maintenance, and we would be certainly, want to provide that service for them in Austin to do, as much as they want us to do of scheduled maintenance. Our guys have a very long-standing tradition of working on their aircraft, and they know their aircraft. But as he mentioned, he has 13 strategic sites throughout the state, and them having their mechanics to work on their aircraft to do dailies and do pre-flights and running maintenance to keep their aircraft moving would, I can't do that from Austin. That's something that they should be doing out there. We would certainly support that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Are there any other questions of this witness? If not, thank you very much for your testimony, sir. Okay, that concludes the witness list. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against Senate Bill 2332? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Hefner to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I close.
Is there, if there's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Is there any objection? Seeing none, hearing none, the bill will be left pending. All right, the next bill is the chair lays out Senate Bill 2383 by Senator Bentoncourt and recognizes Chairman Hefner to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. And members, over the next 2 years, DPS will have approximately 750 commissioned officers that will be eligible to retire. Given the time-intensive nature of recruiting, testing, training, and onboarding for new officers, it is expected that a significant gap in staffing may occur before these positions can be fully backfilled. This bill seeks to create a retention tool that can help mitigate the vacancies until positions are filled with newly hired officers. Senate Bill 2383 would allow DPS officers who have recently retired in good standing to be allowed to apply for rehire with the department. Retaining these experienced officers will be a valuable resource not only in lowering the number of vacancies, but also in leveraging their experience and job knowledge to maintain exceptional efficiency and performance. I believe we probably do have some resource witnesses. I'll be glad to answer any questions, reserve the right to close.
Is there any questions of the chairman? Seeing none, if not, we'll reserve your right to close. Mr. Chairman, we'll call up the witnesses, starting with Jason Taylor, showing you testifying with the Texas DPS and testifying neutral. Is that correct?
Good evening. Yes, that's correct.
Proceed.
Jason Taylor, Lieutenant Colonel, Texas DPS, testifying on the bill as a resource witness. The chairman, thank you all very much for having us, but the chairman laid it out very well. This is just a simple mechanism for us to rehire line level troopers, special agents, Texas Rangers that have recently retired and keep that longevity, that experience in our department, and it's going to be real helpful if we can get that done.
Good. Are there any questions of this witness? Yes, sir.
Is there an age requirement now for retirement in DPS?
No, sir, there is not.
Not. Okay, that's all I had.
Yes, sir.
You looking for a little work there, buddy? Oh, sorry.
I don't think I can get past the question.
Any other questions? Yes, yes.
Okay, whenever you rehire a retired officer, and what is the rate of pay that you rehire them at?
we rehire them at the lowest level, so they'll rehire, like a trooper, a senior trooper would rehire as a trooper one, and then work their way back up.
Okay, and then, can they work long enough to get a second retirement?
No,
No.
you can't get 2 retirements from the state.
Okay.
So they can work. The goal is to somewhat have sort of a contract with these individuals and set a time limit, and that way we can come to an agreement how long they want to work, and we can extend it, but not indefinitely.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, are there any other questions of the witness? Anyone else? If not, thank you very much for your testimony, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against Senate Bill 2383? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Hefner to close on his bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I close.
If there's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the bill will be left pending.
All right. Members, that concludes today's agenda. Is there any other business the committee would like to address? If not, the chair moves to adjourn. Is there objection? Hearing none, the committee stands adjourned, subject to the call of the chair at 7:58 p.m.